Yes.
Yep. Beautiful. Thank you. So, plan for today is try catch, modules, export, Babel, Webpack, and Gulp. So, try and catch is just, I think we kind of covered on some point, didn't we? Or no? We might mentioned on some point try and catch, maybe no. But that is why we want to talk about that today. We will talk about how to actually use your code in different places with modules and export. Babel is a tool that helps you to write modern JavaScript. And Webpack and Gulp, they're like let's say bundlers for now, but we will talk about that. What is it exactly? So, try and catch concept. Basically, you can create in JavaScript, you can handle errors in different ways, and one way is try and catch, and this is very popular way because you basically creating a nice block of code where you have running. So in try, you're basically running you're running your code, and if it fail, it will trigger the catch. And the structure for this looks like that. So you have try, you run in some logic, whatever you want to do, and you have, if that fail inside, if your logic inside will fail or trigger the error, cause the error, let's say, it will fall to catch, and by default it pass an error, or you can do whatever you want. You can avoid it and just do it by yourself. It depends.
And Vasil, this is for asynchronous or also synchronous?
Like for anything, for synchronous, asynchronous. It's just how like error handling, let's say.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Here I've created an example. So you basically fetch in the data, and if you fail on some point, for any reason, you've sent in the request and I don't know, the network error or whatever, it will automatically fall to catch. And you can console log basically the error, or you can just do any action, whatever action you want to do. It doesn't matter. It's just like a fallback. So let me just quickly.
And again, just to reconcile with last week. So this is a different. Back to my question on asynchronous versus synchronous. It's different than the .then and .catch.
Yes. Yeah. So this is yes, exactly. Because then basically it's the callback for your promises. So you have then, and this is just try catch just for error handling, no matter what kind of error you will have, and I'll show it to you in a second. That script, and we want to add source, and that will be our index, almost index.js. And let me just open index.html. Okay. So let me check, do we actually connect it? Console log. And hello. Refresh. Yeah, so we connected. So try and catch. It's not just about asynchronous, as I said. For example, if I create try catch logic, and here I will do, I don't know, const. I will declare a variable like total, and I will do something a plus 5, right? So I will get an error because a is not defined, right? So console log error. So let's try. So let's start with just a random thing. Without try and catch, we will have total a plus 5. Refresh, we've getting the error, right? A is not defined. Should I make it bigger, by the way? Because I have 32-inch screen, so for me it's big. Yeah, no?
For me personally, it's fine, but I don't know about the others.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, let me just get rid of my hello. So see that I'm actually breaking the code. So if I have console log here, let's have it after error. So if I refresh, I will never reach my after error console log, because when you get in the first error in JavaScript, it will terminate execution of the rest of your code. So this is how JavaScript works. If you get an error, it will just stop executing. This is the JavaScript. So you can handle that. You can do something like with try and catch. You can create this, and let's refresh. You can see that we actually we're reaching our code, right? So it's not blocking from execution because you actually handling, you kind of with try and catch, you explaining your JavaScript that I'm expecting the error and I will handle that. Don't need to stop for me. Yeah, so you basically you're just saying that I will do that by myself. And if you can see that I have reference error is not defined. So theoretically, is it message? I don't remember. Potentially message. I might be wrong, but let's try. Yeah, is not defined. A is not defined. Yeah, so you can actually get the actual message. And now it looks like just a regular console log, it's like a regular message. So that might be not very helpful. So you can use not console log, but console error. So it still will be styled as error, but it will not block your JavaScript. Yeah, so you see that, okay, something went wrong. You definitely have an error, but it's not blocking my JavaScript. So that is why you just using it, and you potentially can do something like to make it nicer, error, or capitals, something like that. Refresh. It's styled, but it's not blocked. Yeah.
Yep, pretty handy.
Yeah, and it is very helpful for when you're doing async, when you're fetching data, because you might want to know that, okay, I failed actually with something, or maybe sometimes you want to imagine the thing like you want to fetch the data. So let me actually create a function. So we got the point that you're not blocking anything. Const init. I just want to have async function. I don't like Zens. And init execute. Yeah. So I will have const data equals await fetch, right? And we need some URL, and then we have Zen, and we have response dot JSON, something like that. So if I try to reach the endpoint with, I don't know, HTTPS, yeah, google.com, that will cause the error for sure, right? So if I save and go back to my browser, refresh, Right. First, probably I need to turn on my console, the course. And it would be nice to serve my file. Serve. This is what Nico, what Ricardo, you were asking me today, that we need to serve because it doesn't work with static files. You need to, for your front end, you need to have an actual server running. So if you go here, as you can see, we're getting 404, right? So we have some errors. But if I put my console log after error, we're actually handling that. Yeah, so we're not blocking our code, but we're falling into this one.
And you have an error here because you don't have a server, or?
Yeah, because Google.com doesn't return any data.
Ah, yeah, correct.
It's not an actually valid endpoint or not actually source of data. So let's mock API.
Is it any rule of thumb on regards to when to use try and catch as a best practice, or it really doesn't matter? Because you cannot put that in every single function, and I think if you might be overcoding if you try to do that for every function, right?
Yeah, so you definitely don't want to put to wrap everything into try and catch, but you need, when you write in your code, you need to think about if I want to handle error in specific way, because sometimes if you have a JavaScript error, you actually want to stop the execution of your code because the rest is dependent on that, right? And you think that. But sometimes it doesn't matter, because if you will fail, you want to do something else, right? For any reason. Let's say you have a credentials, you check, and you send in, the user want to access to some page, you send the query to get credentials, and you get in the response, and you want to handle it will fail the response because of the credentials, and you want to redirect user to another page, for example. So you can use try and catch for that. I just want to quickly copy some endpoint. Let me just.
Also, another question, in the code that you wrote as an example, in the catch, you interpolate an error.message.
Yep.
Where is that message coming from? How does the JavaScript knows from what error object to bring in that dot message?
Yeah. So if you have normally if you have a few lines of JavaScript here, it will fail on the very first error. If you're failing on the first error, if you have, let's say, 5 errors, it will take the very first one and throw it, send it basically to catch. Right? Because you still, if you think that, okay, I'm just creating this const total equals a plus 5, you get in the error, right? This is JavaScript error, and you just handling this error in the other way, in nice way. So it's not something that new, it's just the other way of handling this message. Yep.
Yeah, I got it, thank you.
Okay. So let me just get some dummy API. Here we have some. Can we do this? To-dos. If I go here. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have some to-dos. Beautiful. Woo! Look at us. We have quite a few to-dos. Okay, so let me just copy this this URL. I don't like to put it there. Let me just paste URL. Something like that. Let's say we will take the first to-do, right? and we will use this URL to get data. So, and we want to console log data. So go back, refresh. We're actually getting to do. Yep, we're getting the first to do because we're reaching this endpoint with to dos and ID 1. So let's imagine that you are looking for this to do, and that to do supposed to have a name key, right? So we don't have it in this case, but imagine that you want to make sure that this to do has a name. Or maybe you have oh yeah, good example actually. We have completed, right? If you want to check is this to do completed, so what you can do is check if data dot completed, maybe I should rename it to do completed. I want to console log hello completed. So let's refresh. As you can see, we don't have any we don't have our completed because it is false, right? Remember that it is not complete. It is false for completed. So what we can do, we can say, okay, if it's not completed, I want to actually simulate error for JavaScript. So what I can do is return new error with some error message. Let's say, so we have message. So I will pass an object message, and let's call it to do is not completed. Yeah. So we are actually creating an error in JavaScript because our to do is not completed. So let's check it. Refresh. Beautiful. Why we're not throwing the error? Let me think. After error, are we actually reaching this line? Console log here. Refresh. Yeah, actually we're. So what's going on? Is it because of the? Let me check this one. Maybe it doesn't take an object. Maybe it just take what's going on? New error. Yes. Oh yeah, sorry. I completely forgot the syntax. It should be throw new error. So you're actually throwing the error, right? And you are catching. It kind of makes sense in English. So you're throwing an error and you're catching that error. So let's try. Yeah. Ooh, object. Beautiful.
So if you were returning, then it would just stop there and not go to the catch and finish the code? Or I guess it's not.
Yeah, it's just not throwing the error basically. So it's never go to catch in our case. So you need to throw an error. So refresh, and we have to do is not completed. Yeah. So actually now you're getting this message in your catch. So. Mm-hmm. And exactly, I mean, here your code is completely valid, but you want to do something for yourself, for the developer, or when you debugging something or developing, you want to make sure that will work. And if it doesn't, you want to throw an error to console, potentially with any custom message, and then you can handle this error. And besides this try and catch, we also have another thing, which is finally. Try to guess what it does, and then that will be executed. Any ideas? Come on.
That will have a final clause to execute after whether it catch an error or not. You are telling it what to do at the end.
Say again, sorry?
You're having a final clause on what to do, no matter what it try or if it catch an error at the end. Before ending that block, you will put in there whatever code you want it to execute.
Yeah, exactly. So that will be executed in both scenarios. Even if it's successful, it still will be executed after your successful saying, or if it fails, it still will execute something after it fails. Yeah? Does it make sense? Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, give me a second. 1 second. Yeah, beautiful. I'm with you. So let's do console log, and we will see that finally. Let's refresh. Yeah. So if we're failing, we have our finally. Let's say that we don't want to have this if else. Refresh. We still have finally. So it is working. Again, this is the, like, you need to think when you're creating this, you need to, not like that. Before you create in try and catch, before you add into your code, you need to think, do you actually want to handle the error, and if the error is fine for you? Because maybe you want to retry the code if it fails. Let's say, imagine that I'm trying to fetch the data, right? And if I'm fail, I want to call I want to show my message and call my init function again, right? But maybe I don't want just to throw it straight away. I just maybe want to have set timeout and the function, and let's say 2 seconds, right? So I will try to fetch to do unless I get one. Does it make sense? Does it?
So can we fetch to do? Sorry, can you repeat? I actually didn't get it.
Yeah. So we initialize in our function. We call our function, right?
Yeah.
We try to get a new to do, and we want to console log this to do. If we fail with our fetch request for any reason, we don't have an internet, the server responded with the error, whatever, we will fall to our catch, throw an error, show the error that actually we failed, and then we will wait for 2 seconds and call this function again so we can refetch our to-do again. So we will try to fetch our data again unless we succeed. Because next time if we fetch and we will succeed, we will not get into the catch, so we will not call our function again, and that will go to finally. Yeah?
Yeah. Okay, but you could get into a loop where you just do this forever, no?
Forever, unless we will get the actual response. Yes,
Yeah.
You're right. That is why I'm adding like set timeout, so wait for 2 seconds and try again. So let's actually check that. I will go to my network tab, I will refresh. So it is successful, so I'm not looping, right? But if I go to my network and I'll do it offline, go to console again. Look at this, I'm refreshing the page without an internet. All right, beautiful. Wait a second. You definitely need to somehow let me wrap it for a second. Set timeout limit 3 seconds. Save. Okay. So online, refresh, offline. So we got an error again. So we try to refetch, right? So we're getting errors, one more, and another. So we just refetching we try to refetch because we don't have an internet, we're failing. But we're doing every 2 seconds, we're doing another fetch. But once I go to our network and click online, now it's successful and it's stopped, right?
Yeah.
So you can handle such errors in this way because you want to refetch data. You need this data. So you will try to reach the data unless you get the response. Maybe you can do something like you can create like more logic. You can create like a let counter, and that will be 0. And if you fall to catch, you want to increment counter plus equals 1, and not here. You want to change the order. So you want to say that error, then if counter more equals 3, I want to less equals 3, less than 3. I want to call the actual thing, right? I want to refetch the data. If I try to call 3 times, I want to just console log the error that another error. Let's say console log console. Let's change to yellow word and couldn't wait a second, double quotes, couldn't fetch to do. Yep. So let's try. So we will try. Let's do 5. So we want to fetch 5 times, and if he couldn't get to do's in 5 times, then we want to return console log warn. So we want to have else, sorry, because that will be executed every time. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So let's try to refresh the page. Let me do it again. Refresh the page and turn off the internet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's going on? Right. What's going on? Why it doesn't work? Tell me. You definitely know.
Can you show us your code?
Yeah. What's wrong with that?
So counter is 0. Is counter going back to 0 every time?
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly. So because I have my counter inside, I'm not actually have the counter, right? So it should be in I'm always starting from 0. So it should be on 1 level up. So let's try. So refresh, offline, go to console. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, stopped. Could not fetch to do, right? So I actually did a few calls and it didn't work, and this is it. Good. So the only this is we've put in our counter one level up, but I have a slightly smarter way to handle that. You can put counter as an argument with default value 0, right? And every time you will increment your counter. So when you fall into this one, you put your counter inside and calling your function with that counter, with the new counter. Yeah? As I said, it's a bit smarter way to do that.
So
You're starting from 0 on initial call. Yeah?
yeah,
Then you fall into your error, calling your with modified counter. And again, you go in here, and now on the second call, that will be 1. 1 plus 1, 2. So you call here with 2. Then you get here you have 2. On line 10, you will get 3. Call with 3, get 3, increment to 4, right?
yes.
I bet it is confusing. Ricardo, Christina? Anyone still alive there?
Yes.
I'm here, yes.
Okay, so let's try. Maybe I'm just wrong. So let's refresh offline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, it's still the same. So again, with try and catch, you can go crazy and build around it a lot of logic. It always depends on your use case, but you just need to know that there is a way in JavaScript to handle errors nicely, and you can do with that error handling a lot of different things, and you can create logic around that. Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so finally we've discussed already. Any questions? No?
Not for me, no. Thank you.
Okay, then let's go to JS modules. So JS modules is basically a self-contained piece of code that you can reuse in different parts of your application or applications. Remember that CLI app, you were importing different packages. Those are basically modules, JavaScript modules. So somebody created a separate file with some logic, and you just imported that to your code. And to create a module, nothing. You don't need anything like crazy or specific. I'll show you in a few seconds. But why we use modules is because you can have a separate piece of logic, and you can maintain it separately without touching your main project. So you can separate like some logic from your application. So namespacing means that you can isolate like your global variables. Let's say you have add variable, and you can create you can, based on the module name, you can create namespacing, something like let me just get rid of this one. And you can create you have a module, let's say mass, so you can have like mass.add, something like that. So it is, we call it namespacing. So you have a route, but kind of a route to the variable. So you will not clash your variables with your module variables with variables, and reusability, because you can reuse it in different applications even, because this is self-contained code that you can reuse anywhere. So here is an example. I created a function, mass, and inside mass I have a few more functions. So I have add, which does some logic, and I have multiply, which also does some logic. And I'm returning these two functions, right? And now I can use it as like this, mass.add, and do some logic. So this is how you create module. Again, nothing crazy, it's just self-contained code.
So what's the difference between what we know so far as a normal function? Is this the line 9, which is a bit odd because you have like some parentheses open and close?
This open and close is just you executing this mass straight away.
Ah, okay, yeah, okay, got it.
So yeah, but nothing different. Again, it's just how to create modules and why do we do that. It's kind of more like approach rather than some specific syntax.
Got it.
And so how to use it? We have import and export. So you basically, when you have a module, you want to export this module in the file. I'll show you how to do that. And when you want to use this module in your code, you just do import in your code. And in the file, this is important, don't forget. In the file that you want to import some modules, you need to add type module. So you can use import in that file. And all of that might sound very confusing, and I'll just show you the example.
It has nothing to do with like npm install, for example.
No. So npm install is Node Package Manager, which has a lot of packages and kind of modules, right? But you can create your own modules. You don't need to install something else. And so, for example, I have a script in my HTML. I have a script index.js. I need to specify type module on that script, this attribute type module. So inside my index.js, I can use import, because if I do not specify type module, I will fail to run my import. So I need to specify module, then I can use import, for example, mass from mass.js, and in my mass.js file, I will have something like module.exports and whatever I want to export. So let's actually try to do that. So imagine that I will create, let's do mass. So mass.js, right? I want to create a few functions here. Const add num1, num2, num1 plus num2, right? Const multiply, then const divide, then const subtract. Something like that. We have 4 functions, right? Pretty simple. So now I have it in my mass.js, and I want to use it as module. So what I will do is module.exports, and I will export it as one object. So I will export add, multiply, divide, and subtract. Let me just format all of that. Yeah, so I'm exporting all 4 functions. So this, now my mass basically a module, and I can reuse it in different places. So now in my index.js, I want to use my mass file. So I can do import let's call it mass from mass.js. So let's save. You will see that we will get an error. So if I do for example, const total equals mass.js add, and we will have like, I don't know, 6 and 10 console log our total. So something like that. Yeah, so I try to import my mass from my mass. Let me just open in split right. So I'm importing the whole mass, which is all 4 functions, and then I'm just getting add function and passing my 2 numbers. So let's try to run. We will get an error, and you will see, ooh, did I stop? What's going on? Alright, network, sorry, my bad. On my own. Refresh. So we're getting an error, cannot use import statement outside a module. See? So this is the error I'm talking about, and that is why I highlighted that. Do not forget to add in your index HTML, do not forget to add to your script tag attribute module. So now your index.js is a module, and if you refresh, it's not providing export. Right. This is another problem. So we are not actually exporting exports. So we're exporting all of them, but not as a name. We probably want to just export everything as math. Because we don't have export default, we're exporting everything as math, so we're putting everything into one variable on our side, and now we should be able to use it. Module is not defined. What? What's going on? Why it doesn't work? That should work. Let me check. That should definitely work. Module exports at mass. Yeah. Pretty sure I didn't miss anything. Why does it work? Any ideas what I'm missing? Am I blind? I mean, it's almost 7, so I might be blind. Let me check.
The color coding from the presentation looks a bit different, so maybe that's...
Sorry?
The color coding from this example.
Yeah, that's fine. Let me just quickly check. Come on. 1 second. Just what's going on? Why it doesn't work?
Import as math.
Module is not defined, but it shouldn't be defined. Give me a second. One second. Import. Module exports front end. It's always stuck on something silly. Okay. Ah, I, yeah, it might be actually, that might be syntax of Node.js. Here, export default. Yeah, you don't need to have, I think it's exports. Is it exports default? I think it's exports default. JavaScript export default. Oh gosh, I think yeah, that might be it. Export default, or just export. Yeah, I think I just messed up with Node.js. And mass. Okay, so what do we have? Mass. Yeah. I messed up with Node.js. It's slightly different, and we will talk about Node.js in Node.js module. So in the front end, actually I need to leave a comment for myself to update slides. Why I forgot about that? Export. Module exports in Node.js. Yeah. This is what happened when you jump in from language to language. Yeah, so basically you need to run, you're exporting your modules, your functions, right? You're exporting your functions as an object. It doesn't matter, basically. You can export them separately like this. So let me comment it out. Export, and export, right? So you can export them like this. And now, when you're exporting, you can just destructure and do add. For example, because we used add, just add. Yep. So you can have, if you go here, refresh, you still have the same results. You can export, as I did before, with import everything as, so you give a name for everything you exporting from here. So everything you're importing, and you're importing, in your case, 4 things. Everything as mass, so now it's compiled into one variable. And you still have working code. Like 3 ways. First, export all of them as one object and just use mass or whatever variable you want. You can export all of them separately and combine them into one thing, or you can use just destructure them from there at name by name. I would suggest you, basically, to keep the namespace in benefit, you want to export it or import it as one thing. So you want to have a name, so you will have a namespace like mass.add. So if you have a local function, for example, you will create some const add local function, it will not clash with your module one because you have a namespace and you have this prefix. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So that is why you just want to use namespacing. So this is how you write modules, and you will have a task to create your own library, and yeah, you'll have the requirement, you'll get it, all the requirements, I'll send it to you. But yeah, this is how you work with modules. And yes, questions on this one? Questions?
No, I think I understand the concept, and I guess the syntax with the exercises, I guess we'll know better. But yeah, I understood. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so now we are moving to more theoretical thing, almost theoretical. It's nothing to build basically, but you need to understand these things. So Babel. Babel is a transpiler, is a tool to transpile your code and make it compatible with old browsers. With browsers that doesn't support latest fancy tech stuff. And I have a few examples. So we have an optional chaining in ES not 8, I think. I don't remember when we get it, but that was after when we got it. It probably was like 2018 or something. So we got optional chaining. We are basically checking, does cities exist? If it does exist, then we want to take the first item from that cities. So we will not get an error. So I'll show you an example. This is actually a good thing. So imagine that you have an array of cities. I don't know. London, Paris, 2 cities. Yeah. So dot, and I want to get lengths. Yeah. So I have 2, which is fine. You just get 2. But imagine that you fetch in your cities. Imagine that you use like fetch data from, I don't know, or users, or you fetch in list of cities, and you fetch in the data from the server, and you got null. For any reason, you got null. So if you have later in your code, if you have lengths, you will get an error, right? You just fail, you create an error because you haven't got your null. You haven't got your cities, so you have null. And that will fail. And that will be the case when we get to React, because React is dynamic, it has like re-rendering things, and you will see why it is the case and why it's so useful with React. But with optional chaining, you can put question mark and say, if it's true C, then get me the length. If it's not true C, if it's false C, then do not get me a length. That is why you get just undefined, because you're not triggering lengths on this one, because this one is falsy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But in the example you showed with the cities, were you saying actually that you were attributing the city to whatever the first element of the array is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry. So again, if you go here, do question mark 0, right? We will get London. If you have null, we will get an error. But if you put question mark, we will not fail.
Okay, so you're not actually adding, in the example, you're not adding a city to it, you're just interrogating to see if it's there.
Yeah, exactly. I want to get the first one. So if it exists, I will get one. If it's not, I will not fail, I will not break my code.
Got it. Makes sense.
So it will convert, so this is a modern syntax, right? And for example, Internet Explorer doesn't support it, like especially older versions. So we need to transpile that to the older version of JavaScript, to ES5, and that will look like this. This is compiled code to explain Internet Explorer how it works, how it should be treated. And even more fun, you know our favorite destructuring with 3 dots, right? This tiny thing, that three small dots. Look at this, how it will be compiled. Yeah, exactly. So this is the modern way of doing this thing, this is the old way of doing that thing.
Wow, we have lots of modulos and stuff. Yeah.
And what exactly is doing the line 3 on the new example? Because you're defining a variable called user, and it has an object which has a password and an array.
No. So, like ideally, client is already defined, and I want to destructure that. So I have another object with, let's say, name and I don't know, some email, and I want to create a user which should have name and email and password.
Okay.
So that is why I'm just taking the other object that has been defined and destructuring. Ooh,
Okay.
what the heck is going on? Right? So yeah, Babel basically convert your code to the older version, and you can just see what's going on. And let me check a few more fancy things. So here's like an online tool to check the compilation. So even like if you set ES15 2015, even if you created just a variable const test equals 5, 6, it converts to var, right? Because this is the old syntax. If you create another one, let test2 equals 2, it's still var, because the old JavaScript doesn't know what is const and what is let. So it will compile to this one. If you have const test an object, let me just check, I'm just playing around. For example, name, Alex, age 25, and now I do object dot entries test. Okay, it's actually compiling well. Okay, yeah, so not a big difference. Yeah, so again, Babel basically just help you to compile, to transpile your code to the older version. And that means that you're writing your JavaScript in a modern, fancy way. Everything is working great. But before you push your code to production, you want to apply Babel, so that will process your code and make it compatible with old browsers. So you can safely deploy your code to production, and that will work everywhere, right?
And how do you do that?
Good question. This is where we slowly move into another thing.
And this is just for the front end part of things, right? Because it's for the browser related part. So
Yes.
for the server, you don't use any of this.
Yes, exactly. This is a front end thing. As you remember, we're on a front end week. Yeah. So, sorry. How do we do that? We use the other tools to run it, and for one of them are Webpack. So Webpack is a bundler to process all your codes, all your assets, everything into something, into the consumable by browsers code. So here's an example. This is from their official website. So you have some JavaScript, you have handlebars, which is like a HTML templating. You have some SJS, you have Sass, you have images, everything, and you want to process it. So you will add the Babel as a config, so it will take your JavaScript and convert it to the older version of JavaScript, so you can make it compatible. It will take your handlebars, your HTML templates, and process it to static templates, to static HTML. It will take your Sass and convert it to CSS, so the browser will understand it. it will take your images and, for example, process this it will shrink it, it can resize it, it can change the basically the resolution, it can change a lot of things, it can tweak you and process your images, so that will take less space in production. It also can take your code and minify to remove all spaces. It can uglify. Remember, have you seen code maybe in web when you go to DevTools and you have something like function f, and here you will have something like, I don't know, const var a equals a dot m plus, or I don't know, question mark s or x. Have you seen such code before in the browser, in the internet, when you go to DevTools? So what it means, it just took a regular code. Let's say it took this I don't know, subtract function with proper names, with proper everything, and it uglify, so we call it uglifying, to compress it, to take less characters and take less space, so your application will load faster. So it's basically like so you use Webpack to compile all your code, all your dynamic code and assets to the static code and minify, uglify, and just to make it take less space than it just takes in development. So your application in development can take, I don't know, 10 megabytes, but after processing, it can take like 3 megabytes. And for Webpack, it basically, all of this stuff, you just run it for efficiency, and you need to write config for Webpack to make it happen. So Webpack by itself doesn't do all of that. You just add in all these configs to explain what it's supposed to do for you. You can it's very, very flexible. It's like you're creating like a config file and writing all these settings. And we have a repo in our GitHub, on our GitHub. So you can actually go through it, and you create like a Webpack config.js. And here, some examples, like we have like a README here, but if you go to Webpack config, you can check what we're doing. We're importing some packages. We writing some setup, like entry, vendors, SCSS, JavaScript, output should be destination. So you basically configuring the whole application. And don't think that you need to remember that or memorize it, because first of all, juniors and mids never do that. This is the first thing. Second, for seniors, you're doing that, I don't know, once in a few years. So normally on the point of time when you're doing that, they changed a lot of things in the syntax, in the structure, the Webpack I mean. And you still need to go and Google and read how to do the setup, because this is not something that you are doing every day. You can, because you're doing this setup for the application that you will build, right? And you can build your application for 5 years, for 10 years. The whole company can work on one application in 10 years, right? And you're doing this setup just once on the very beginning, and maybe in a year or two you want to add some tiny tweak to your application, and you will go to the internet, you will find how to do that for the Webpack. You will copy paste it, basically run. If it works, great. You modify like 3 lines of Webpack file, and you'll forget it for next 3 to 5 years. So that is why this lesson is more theoretical rather than practice for Webpack, because there is no point to teach you Webpack. It's too complicated and you're not working on it like on daily basis. It's just something that will happen like once. And especially with React, people use Webpack less and less. Because like create React app, for example, package, it already has a lot of things to process your code. So you don't really worry about such things. But still, sometimes you'll see it and you might need to modify it and do some tweaks. Questions on this one?
Not for me, thank you. Good to know we are not going to be using it too much, but
No, we will not. Yeah, and in our course, we will not work with Webpack at all. And again, there is no point to do that. Just waste of time. But you still need to understand what it does and why
yeah,
people
good to know
do
what it is exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, the next stop is Gulp. Again, this is it's hard to talk about such things because you will use it for Twitter application just as a basic. You will have a very basic setup. And the funny story is that I've created a Gulp setup for your Twitter project. So if you open the Twitter project, you will find that you actually have a Gulp file, and you will check how to run it. But the thing is that I've created this config, and then on some point I tried to run some code like up with the next cohort, and it failed because they modified their syntax. They updated the version. Because I tried to update it to the latest one. So again, this is like a Webpack, but Gulp is more task runner. So if Webpack basically processing your code before you run that to production, or before you, basically it runs, like rebuild the whole thing. So Gulp is more like a, hey, if I change this file, can you process it quickly for me? If I do this, can you quickly process it for me? So it's kind of automation for developers when you're working on the project. It's not like a bundler or like a Webpack, because Webpack is very powerful. It's a crazy huge thing that can do crazy stuff with your project. But Gulp is just task runner. So you actually just, again, for SCSS, why we have it Gulp for Twitter project, because we are asking you to write SCSS, and SCSS should be processed to CSS.
What is SCSS, sorry?
We will talk about that. We will have a lesson. This is preprocessor for CSS. Yeah, we will talk about that. Yeah.
Is it? I think is it the one we had with Thomas where we did some? I forgot the name of it, but there was a program like doing some function for CSS. I think that was
right. So we had SCSS. Yes.
Yes. So we had it. Yeah. We had that. Yeah.
It was SAS.
Sorry.
It was SAS.
Yeah, SAS. So SAS is the actual thing, the actual, let's say, preprocessor, and the file extension for SAS is SCSS.
Right. Got it.
Yeah. So, basically the whole point of Gulp API is Gulp source, where you're providing what file you want to take. Gulp destination, dest, means that when you process it, put it to that destination. Task, the actual task, and so the actual action that you want to do. And watch means that if something change, do something, do some task. It's like a for elephants, where the Gulp stands on. And so we have a lot of plugins for Gulp. Again, Gulp by itself is just a task runner, But if you want to use some tools, you just need to include to your Gulp package, and that will use it basically. Yeah, it's easy to learn and understand. So for example, if we have an example here, so you just require Gulp, you require Sass, and pretty much I think this is a config for our Twitter project. And you create in the function style, which you will call here. Basically you have watch, so you export in watch, and you say in watch for SCSS files, if any SCSS file will change, run this task, style. And style task will be Gulp, you will take the SCSS file, you process it through Sass plugin that we are importing, and you save the result of this process into CSS folder. And let's do that. Let's actually try to run this stuff. So first of all, I want to go to Gulp website, and we will try to do it again together. So first of all, let me close this, save, close. So I want to initialize my npm init-y. So I have npm. Now I want to install npm install Gulp. Right? Almost yeah. So remember, before we start with Gulp setup, remember that we had how on the lesson with Thomas, with Sass lesson, to run to process your Sass files, you had something like index SCSS, and you have like h1 for example, and you had I don't know, color green, something like that. Yeah, so this is your SCSS file, and to run it you just do SCSS I think dash watch, and then you do index.scss and destination, let's say index.css, right? Command not found. Looks like I haven't installed SCSS. Install, wait a second, dash G SCSS. Is it SCSS or Sass? I don't remember the plugin name. Theoretically, that might be installation. Oh, Sass. Yeah, sorry. This is Sass. Yeah, so Sass. Yeah, so now it's compiling, right? So it creates CSS file. So this is without Gulp. It's just a pure Sass plugin from npm. So if I change it to, I don't know, yellow, save, see it reran, and now I have yellow in my CSS. So, but this is just processing of Sass files. But you can, let me stop that. You got the point, I hope. Did you? This is just without, this is happened without Gulp. So let's go to our Gulp and try to do a setup. My project, init, Gulp. Let's check, do we have Gulp? Gulp -v. Yeah, we have Gulp, we installed Gulp. Create Gulp file. So we want to create Gulp.js, right? Let's do that. Let's create Gulp.js where we put our config. So I want to create Gulp equals require Gulp, So here's basically the basic setup for Gulp. So let's test it. That means that I don't need. I think that they might change. Okay, so now, because I have a config file, if I run Gulp, that should execute my Gulp. Yeah, so it just executed and this is it. Yep. It's not running, it just processed all tasks which I don't have. Okay, looks good for me. Another thing, let me just Gulp SAS. Let's show you Gulp SAS. This is another package that you want to install before you can use it with Gulp. So what you do, you just installing Node SAS and Gulp SAS. Another packages, but again, you don't do that like on daily basis. And Gulp is good for small projects, and Webpack is good for big projects. But yeah, let's do Gulp now. So here, just copy pasting basically. You just do, what you're doing. You're saying that you're requiring your Gulp, right? And SAS project, SAS file. Then you just run in your SAS, and you're saying take everything from SAS folder, so it can be different. So let's create a SAS folder. SAS. And now we can put our SAS file there, index and CSS. Right, so we are looking for in SAS folder. See that we have stars. That means that can be any nested folder, and we will look for any name with extension of SCSS. So process it and process it to SCSS. To CSS folder, and watch. Means that we are looking for changes in SAS. So let's actually check. Gulp default. Sorry. Never define default. Okay, yeah. So what does it want from us? They changed the syntax. Change the syntax. Let me just export default. And we want to export. Potentially want to export what? Do they explain me? It looks like this documentation is for the previous version of Gulp, but let me just quickly check. Dum 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 dum. What do they do here? Oh yeah, they are wrapping into the function. Place your code into default task here. Okay, so it looks like they just want to have const init and you want to put everything into the function. Let's try. Create. Export. What? Oh yeah, exports default. Exports default. Equal. So this is the setup. Let's try. The following task will not complete default. You forgot to signal async compilation. Right. So we want to pass the callback. I don't want to execute. Let's try again. Okay, yeah, so we are executing. Definitely not working. Let me check. Gulp sus. Should be something fresh because they changed the version, and I'm not sure why now it just for older version. Set times something fresh. Ooh. No file. Serious task. So it doesn't work. Let me just test it with this. So this is what we had. We will get another Gulp. Gulp tasks. Task watch. Oh, right. So we need to actually run the task name. So Gulp SAS watch. Right? Now we are failing, which is a good sign. Watch has to be a function. Wait a second. Series. Let's Google for that. Watch task, watch. And series. Clean. New file package. Series build. Okay, Gulp series. Do they want to wrap my tasks? Yes, I see some updates. Gulp series. Let's try. Maybe that will help. Hate such things because you never know what they will change and what will happen. Yeah, so now it is running. Beautiful. So let's try page 1. And to be honest, when I'm showing this, there is no point to explain what's going on because you probably will never do that. So here, let's say in our SCSS, we will add again color green. Save. See, it's just processing, and now we have a CSS here. CSS here, sorry, it's created a CSS. And it's not just one task. So here we have just one task, but we can add multiple tasks. We can add Babel as well. We can add other things. So it can basically do very similar things to what Webpack does. But in our case, it just basically it's smaller, much smaller. And if you're not going crazy, just some Babel SAS and I don't know, some image, or maybe the minification and uglifying, I think that should be it. You can just create a few tasks and that will compile every time you do some changes. So let me actually check, do they have Gulp uglify? Yeah, they have a package for that. Come on. So you basically create another task to compile, to run, to process your JavaScript, let's say. Let's actually test it. So let me just copy this, go here, paste. So we have another task. And in our case, we want to listen for compress, right? So it will take everything in just any JavaScript file Here we want to have an array, I think, if I'm not wrong. So we will run two tasks. First is SAS, which is this, right? So you have a task name here. This is a custom one, whatever you want to add. And another one is compress in our case here. So let's actually test it. So let me just try to change any, let me just stop. Let's start. Module not, oh right, module not found, because we add it, but we never installed it. So let's npm I. Then we want to install this one as well. We need two packages, npm I. And let's try to run our listener. Yeah, okay, so if I go to JavaScript and save it, let me do some changes. It's not actually processing. Okay, so let me just see if I change it to compress, will that work? All right, sorry, my bad. So here we want to have this one, and we want to listen for any JS, right? So we want to listen for any JS asterisk JS changes. So that will be for compress. Let me just change this, remove compress from here, and let's try. So if I want to create a dist, yeah, so it created, see that when I saved, it created a dist folder, a dist file. Yeah, right, where it's, sorry, my bad. Let me remove this one. It just took, so it took two files, right? Because our Gulp is also JS, but let's listen for index or just for everything from in JS folder. Let's create JS folder and move these two into JS folder. So now here we want to have JS folder, listen for JS folder, and we will combine into JS. So change to JS asterisk. So save, stop. Let me remove this file again. So if I save something, it will change. Doesn't like, let me just check what do we have, because we might need to add unexpected token name mass, expect punctuation. Okay, if we commented out this for a sec, yeah, so it created index, which is empty, beautiful. If we commented out this one, save, see that it is just minifying, so I have no spaces, anything. It's just compressing from this one to that one. And also, I bet that they have some options to uglify, to change like a lot of things, to actually make it ugly. But again, you just need to, every time when you're doing something, you just need to play with that and understand what's going on and what is your goal actually. But the whole point is that Gulp gives you ability to actually run your process your code and optimize it, or like with SCSS, you can actually compile it into CSS. So yeah, again, there is no point for you to memorize all of that. Basically, if you need to, if you're working on the project and you want to write your SCSS, you want to kind of optimize your code for production so it will take less space, you might want to use Gulp, or you might want to use Webpack. Gulp is just simpler. So if you have a small project, there is no point to do a Webpack setup because it's very complicated. Gulp is simpler. Questions on this one?
Why would you uglify your code?
So we have a few reasons. First reason is that you want to basically take less space, right? So
uglify means taking less space. I thought I was making it ugly. So okay.
Yeah, so let me just show you, for example, here, I bet that they have uglified application. Not application, sorry, it should be source. Is it in source? Yeah, it is in source. So if I find any JavaScript file, I hope that we will be lucky. Let me check. Yeah, static.js. See what is uglified code?
Okay, got it.
And if I format it here, it still has function BA, B0, BA lengths. So it's not because there's some crazy developer just good with short naming. it's because it's uglified. So you actually compress it, and that will take less space, right?
Okay, got it.
So this is the point why you're uglifying this thing to this. It will take less space. And another thing is readability. So it's harder to somebody to hack you or break your application, because when you have functions like BA, BAA, and M, you have no clue. It's very hard to trace and very hard to understand what each function does.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, the main reason basically is the first one, is the space.
Got it.
And size. Yeah. Any other questions? No? Okay. Have you checked the Twitter application already? Anyone?
No.
I had a brief look at it yesterday evening, and I see that the format, it all has to be kind of looking like a phone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me actually open maybe on my where's wait a second, I'm just opening the Twitter project. Where do we have projects? Oh, this is a separate thing. Okay, yeah, so let's go to GitHub. And look for Twitter. Figma. Yeah.
Booyah.
So you want to have like a home page, like where you want to log in. And for that, you can actually use local storage. If you want, you can start with just login. So if you match the password and login, you will let user in. So you can click login. You'll get here. You will be able to upload the image. It's not actually upload, but you need to check how the file upload works. So you can actually upload the image. When you can click like, ooh, something happened with our design. I need to check what's going on. You can retweet. You can leave the comment straight away here.
So in Figma, you can. I actually didn't know that you could. That Figma pages were interactive like that.
Yeah, so you can create like a prototype.
Was it the case for the other ones we had before? Or?
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know. How did you do that? Like,
so if you go back,
because I'm used to having like all the pages in one, and I would just like zoom in to see the page I want to see.
So you have play here.
Ah, okay.
So let me.
I don't think that's available in the free version, probably, right?
Sorry?
Are you using the free version?
Yes. Yeah, so it is in free version. So if you click, it just run a prototype. I mean, it's not smart enough to do it by itself. You actually, if you want to create a prototype, you click on the like on the element, for example, and you go to let me just check. I'm not sure, is it in web? Maybe it's
that's the way I was doing it. I was just going through it and clicking, looking at the different things.
So yeah, you definitely can use Play, but if you download their app, let me just open in app. Figma. It is free as well. So. One second. Great. Good start. Okay, yeah. Twitter app, Twitter app. So here, when you go to click on the element, oh, I don't have permissions to edit. Yeah, sorry. But if you go to any other Pinterest, for example, I'm the author of this one. Hope you enjoyed it. The best design ever. So when you click on the element, you have a prototype tab. And you can actually set interaction, like plus, and you like click, or you can change not click on drag. When you drag on something, it will execute an action while hovering. So you can do different things, right? So for example, in my case, when we basically we can click, right? We actually doing. I've created a prototype. See that when I click, I have click, go to this desktop. And if I click on this one, it goes to that desktop. So if I go to prototype mode, come on. Why it's so slow? Just killing me.
Wow, that's another one. I guess it's another bootcamp just to master the Figma.
Figma is killing me.
As you said on the other channel, it's a complete other. Well,
Yeah.
Christina must know about it. It's a complete different job.
Yep.
Doing all the design.
That's true. Okay, so while we're waiting, I don't know why Figma is that bad today, but Let me run here. I hope that this one will load faster. What's going on? Oh my gosh. Okay, let's do this web one. That should be faster, I hope. Come on. Crazy. Oh my gosh, why it's so painful? It just won't load. Okay. While we're waiting, let's go in this way. So you can click and leave the comment straight away without going to the tweet actually. You can click on the tweet. If you click on the tweet, is it loaded? No. If you click on the tweet, you will get to the tweet page and will render all comments. If you click on this button, it should open this window to leave a comment, right? But pay attention that if you on this view, that button will create a new tweet. So the purpose of these buttons are different. So on this view, this is creating new tweet, this page. This view, it will create a new comment to current tweet. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let me click. So if I click on this one, sorry. Yeah, so you can click, leave the comment, reply. Then you click on create a tweet. You can do something, click tweet. If you go to actual tweet on this one, you can create. That will open the edit, tweet, and that will add the comment to this tweet. Yeah. And you can close. Yeah, you can close. Yep, I think this is it.
And the whole, I mean, the design, because I see it's kind of like some things are moving. Is it already in the folder, like the CSS design, or?
No. So, as usual, leave all these design to the end. So create just boxes without design to make sure that you actually you can log in, you can upload the image, so you can have you can see the this one here, the image here, your logo avatar. You can like, you can retweet, and that will change the number here and here. You can leave a comment. So think about functionality. Forget for like all these triangles, colors around it, border radius, let's say, lines, etc. Forget about this. First, deliver the functionality, and we actually have the requirements in the repository. Ooh, too far. So yeah, login, create a new tweet. Yeah, basically here. We provided you the design because you might want to actually make it nice, not just build anything. So yeah.
Exciting.
Can you go back to the requirements?
Yep.
What is the API relationship for?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've provided you a database, and we provided you, so this is how you can get tweets.
No.
This is like a JSON server functionality. You can get tweets by, you can get comments by tweet ID, for example. Right? So you take, for example, here you have tweets, one, so you get in first tweet and you get in all comments for this tweet. You can check JSON server. JSON server. Come on. And here is documentation for that. Pretty much we just copy paste it from here because this is the official documentation. Yeah. So you can get, because it will be hard for you. You need to make a few calls, right? You need to, if you want to get comments for specific tweet, you need to get a call to get a tweet. Then you want to get to make another call to get comments for this tweet. But with the JSON server actually provides you functionality that you can save your calls and get just based on the post. You can on your tweet ID you can get all comments with one call. You don't need to do it twice. And that will combine the response, sorry. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you then. I will deploy new exercises. Let me just double check what do we have for this week. More fetching and funds. Oh yeah, create library. Yeah, so I will deploy not much for this week because you need to start to work on Twitter because Twitter is huge. So we'll have just one exercise, create a library. On Wednesday you have code alone session. You will try to build an Instagram, the simple version.
Wow.
I told Thomas that after the lesson he can sell his code for 1 billion. I don't mind. Yeah. And yeah, I think, and yeah, so basically you need to start to work on your Twitter. Next
So is it
week,
even more huge than the e-commerce website?
yes, I mean a lot of logic because you need to stay on one page potentially. So yeah, it is challenging. You need to think about how to handle everything, but that is why we have this project. So when you get to React, you will see, oh, that is why we use React.
Oh, because the Twitter will be all asynchronous? Or
It will be, you should mimic the single page application with pure JavaScript. So you're not actually going between pages, you're staying on one page, but you're changing views. You need to render a lot of HTML based on with JavaScript.
Okay, so the JS will be all in one file because it's just all one thing happening, but it's going to be a lot of rendering HTML, kind of changing as you click on things.
Almost. So all HTML will be in one file, HTML. But with JavaScript, you can create multiple files. So you can have actually nice small functions and small files. And you can use import and modules to dedicate, like you can create like a file template, I don't know, template handlers or templates generators. And you can have a few functions to generate a tweet, to generate a comment, to generate another layout, and you can separate it to the separate file, to put it into separate file, and you can actually make it cleaner, not just one huge index.js.
Okay.
Because it's very hard, if you put everything in one file, it's very hard to read. That is why you need to split your code. Like that is why I'm suggesting you to create a separate file to generate elements or blocks of HTML with functions. Create a separate file, so you will call this file and just call some functions from there. So you will have like a one place where you're generating all of them.
So will it be one file for generating, for example, comments, and then one file for generating tweets?
So it's not a
how do you structure it then?
Yeah, it's not a requirement. It's like as it's your approach. You can
Yeah,
put
no, but
everything.
I'm just wondering, like, how would you do it? Like, how would you split the different, like, in the different work streams or the different blocks?
So I would say that for me, I will create a file with functions, and each function to generate templates. So I will have a function like create a tweet, and that will be just a HTML template that will return me a template of one tweet. And I will create another function, create a comment, or create an input, or create I don't know, the header, and that will just generate, this specific function will generate me like a layout for this specific thing. And that will be a separate one file to generate HTML with different functions.
Okay.
So basically, for you, for example, if you have such file, you will do something like, if you want to render the main page, you will call function generate header, generate tweets with for each to render all tweets, right? You call two functions, for example. If you go to the tweet view, you will call another function generate tweet, for example, layout, and generate comments. And
yeah.
you basically call in different functions. You split in everything.
Got it. Cool.
It is hard. I will not lie. It is hard, but the point is that by doing that manually, you will understand why people using. First of all, you'll write a lot of JavaScript. And second, you will understand why people use frameworks for such things, because you're rendering a lot of HTML, and this is very painful and ugly to do it in just pure JavaScript. So yeah.
All right.
So don't.
At what time in the whole course do you think we are reaching a plateau and where it's like actually easier? Or
no point.
No point. It continues going up and up and up. Okay.
Because yeah, when you get there, that means that the rest time you're just wasting.
Sorry?
That means because when you get to that point in the middle of the course, the rest of the course will be wasting of your time. That is why there is no such point.
Got it. Okay, no, I like the approach.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and next week we will have 2 lessons about OP. Yeah, just talk about OP.
What?
OP? What is that?
Object-oriented programming.
Oh.
Yeah. And then, let me just check. Then we will have, after that, we will have 1 lesson for testing. Basically tests, how to write tests, why do we write tests, how it works, what kind of frameworks, tools we use, etc. And we will have 1 more code along session, I think.
One more what? Code what, sorry?
Code along, so we will build something together again.
Okay, cool. So that's next week on Thursday then, yeah.
Yeah, so basically no. So this week you have Code Along with Thomas, so you'll build an Instagram. And the following week you have 2 lessons of OOP, Object-Oriented Programming. And then you have 1 lesson for testing, and 1 we will build something together. Yeah.
Cool.
And then we will start Node module, which is crazy because you have a lot of materials there.
So that's for December then, yeah?
Yes.
And that's when Ricardo will be very happy.
We have a lot. Yeah, it's just a lot of topics that needs to be covered for backend.
Wow.
Yeah, because we will cover, so the basic stuff that you need to be able to build something is Node and Express, which we will cover very quickly, basically, and you will do that during the whole module. But we will also cover databases, we will cover WebSockets, we will, yeah, quite a few things, I would say.
Wow.
What DB are we going to be working with? Is it Mongo or MySQL?
So we will have a lesson about relational database and so with MySQL and Mongo as well. We recommend you to work with Mongo because this is like a very generic tech stack, which is MERN, Mongo, Express, React, and Node. This is like a very, very, very popular stack of technologies. So people, when hiring like full stack developers, you might find that many people looking for MERN stack. Yeah.
All right. Thank you then.
Thank you.